Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. This is BioWiz podcast, Meet the Weezard. I am Elizabeth, and we are today with Moshe Shtrauch. Hi, Moshe. How are you?
Good. And you, Elizabeth?
I'm great. Thank you. So, Moshe, you're a sustainable expert. And as I like to ask all our guests here, could you tell us a bit more about your journey and what led you to who you are today?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I originally came to the US in 1977. I basically traveled with a couple of friends from Israel, which is very common. Israeli, when they finish the army, they go and try to explore the world. At that time, we had no peace, so you have to get out of Israel for a couple of months. That's what I did, and after the trip, I decided to stay, and I was exploring possibilities. This was a time where there was an energy embargo or the oil embargo, and the US was desperate for new technologies to start supplementing oil. I had an opportunity to start doing some projects for the Department of Energy, for the US Department of Energy, and that's what I started doing. I started doing some energy projects. They were basically pilot projects to prove that solar works, which happened to power our planet for the last 4 billion years, and it still works. I started doing those projects, and they work. Actually, some of the projects work to this day. This is over 40 years later. Later on, and although those projects I did in the eastern part of the US, I did it in New Jersey and some in New York State. And then a few years later, I moved to California. This is where the sun is a little brighter. And
yeah, that helps.
Yes, it helps. It's basically Israel, Southern California. So I started one company which still is operational. It's called Environmental Solar Design. And later on, I started another company called Solar Drop. And they both did very well, very fast. We did mostly thermal. Later on, so I'll give you a little bit history. I was always interested with sustainability, especially when I came to the US. I was amazed at the waste, the tremendous waste that this country runs on, from everything, for those huge cars to just in the food industry, or everything is just so large and so big. From there on, after I did the solar, we decided to move. I had a family then, and we moved to New Jersey, back to New Jersey.
So yeah, that's when happened a shift between, so you come from the solar energy world, and then you shift to
agriculture. And later on, I moved to agroforestry. Agroforestry I did where I'm right now in upstate New York. There's a lot of forest with maple trees.
Maple trees.
Correct. And at that time, there was a Chinese company came over, and they wanted to do. It's called ginseng. Ginseng. It's in the Orient, they've used ginseng for thousands of years.
It's the oil that we there have been using for like the 6,000 and something years. Yeah.
Yes, you're right. And what had happened is the locals here in the forest, they used to remove the ginseng, which is the most coveted ginseng in the world. Is the American ginseng. Is the strongest, most powerful, most potent. So the locals just harvested, sold it for so many thousands of dollars per pound, and they never replenished it. So this company came over, and we started, I ran a few crews doing this kind of work, replenishing or replanting the forest with ginseng.
Which happened on maple trees.
Under maple trees. It has to be maple trees, and it has to face north, the forest. And it's kind of, you have to find the indicator plants. It's not that easy, but it has to be reintroduced. It's like anything else humans do, is they deplete something and then they look for solutions. So that's what we've done. We've done it for a couple of years, and this is, I did it
How long does it take? How long does it take to be able to take ginseng out of a maple tree?
10 years.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very long,
that's a long process.
Yeah, it's a long process, and it takes about 10 years till you can start harvesting it by law. They don't want you to start removing it earlier because you basically shoot yourself in the foot as far as the investment. Apparently under the maple tree, there's a special chemistry and a special shades and so on that really make the ginseng plant most potent. That's the environment it likes. Anyway, so after doing this kind of work, actually I went back to Israel about exactly 2 years ago. I came to Israel a few times, but I was there 2 years ago, and I went to visit in the Arava, just south of the Dead Sea. And I was amazed. I haven't been there for a long time, but I was amazed to see a sea of greenhouses. And this is where nothing grows. And so I spoke with some people over there. We visited for a couple of days, and apparently there was under the desert, they found those antique water aquifers, millions of years old, and they were basically very salty water, but they brought the water, they're bringing the water up, they're purifying it or mixing it with some fresh water, and then they're growing anything and everything in the desert, in those greenhouses. And you look to the left, you look to the right, and you're amazed. It's a sea of greenhouses.
Wow.
And,
so this is when you connect the dots and you build this idea, and let's talk about it, the hybrid forest.
Correct. And this is where the idea came about, is we really have to imitate nature in a way. Apparently, the desert in Israel and desert many places in the world used to be used to be forested, but slowly by human evolution and human exploration, we basically created a desert in some ways. So I thought, why don't we start bringing it back to the way it was? What do you need in order to grow something in the desert? You need water, and you need something to grow in. That's the reason that I use greenhouses, because greenhouses is the way to do it. And by the way, when I was there, I saw a solar farm. You're familiar with solar farms now? They're everywhere. There's those panels where they take huge swaths of land, and then even here in upstate New York, they have hundreds of, by now, many thousands of acres, but now it's moving to hundreds of thousands of acres where they start covering them with solar panels. But what's happening when you put a solar panel, you cannot grow anything under it. So it can be the most fertile land in the world, but you're really not utilizing it. They bring goats to go around and eat the grass so it doesn't interfere with the sun. But other than that, you cannot grow much under it. So say, why don't we bring the canopy of the solar absorption system a little bit higher, and then we can grow stuff under it. So you look at the tree. A tree has a trunk, has a canopy, and it has roots. So I start putting all those pieces together. The canopy is not exactly a solar panel, a rigid solar panel. It's a flexible solar panel, and it lets some of the light come in.
It's even better.
What?
It's even better because you have access to all the lights.
Correct. You have not all the light, but part of the light. You use some of it for solar, and some of it you use for growing. For example, in the desert, you have too much light, so you cover, if you see in greenhouses, they cover with some special cloth to take some of the intensity of the light because it's a little too much. So why don't we use those things? It has a trunk and it has roots. Now, and that's the way any tree grows. It gets the energy from the canopy, from the leaves. It moves everything through the trunk, and it has the roots to get the water and nutrition. So basically, I put all of those concepts together, but what I'm using is, I call it the hybrid forest. The hybrid forest is when we use natural forces, but we leverage it with technology. And we still integrate nature back into it. Just a little different concept, just putting the things differently. So I start putting the pieces together as far as the trunk. I can get a trunk 80 feet up to 160 feet made of engineered wood. And 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 um, and the roots is basically a way to get water, purify it, and also move heat in and out of the under the canopy. I'll just give you an example. Right now, where I'm staying is upstate New York. We have a lot of snow outside. I live in a house where there is a solar system right now, and there is geothermal system in the field. It means, and this is part of the root system in the tree. Um, right now, I'm leveraging energy from the sun to take heat from the ground and heat the house.
Wow.
And this is now about 25-year-old system right here in this house. So it
Yeah.
can be now 20 degrees minus outside, but I'm still pulling heat from the ground, leveraging the solar system, the electricity from the solar system. And now the ratio is every kilowatt you bring from the sun, you can leverage it into 4 to 5 kilowatts of heat in the house, which is amazing. And this is where I believe the world would need to go. It's the
That's
same with
for sure.
it's not
Yeah.
only heating. You can do heating and cooling.
You can do heating, you can do cooling, or you can also use the weathers that come from underneath the roots to do a lot of things. Growing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and part of the agroforest concept is having an aquaculture system, and the water would be used to grow protein with fish, and then the waste from the fish can be, which is mostly nitrogen nitrates that right now farmers buy it in quantities and spray it over the field. You can do it naturally from water that comes out of the aquaculture systems.
Mm-hmm.
So not only that, the water in the ponds also act as a storage for heat.
Yeah.
So you can combine all of those systems and create a very sustainable system. I have another aspect of the hybrid forest is really having communities of people living under it.
Yeah.
It's like tree houses inside the tree. You can have tree houses.
Can you have trees connected one to the other?
Correct. They would be connected, and just give you some ratio understanding. Let's say if it's an 80 meter trunk up to 160 meter trunk, you're looking at each tree is about between 18 to 30 dunam each tree. Now you can connect them.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that they are connected and they produce electricity, all the equipment for it can power the houses, can heat the houses, supply houses under with water. And those are mostly people that would live in this. It's like little kibbutz in each forest.
Yeah.
It's a shared economy. What we're trying to do now by having a car for every 5 houses, or now we have all those bicycles in Tel Aviv, it's the shared economy, and the shared economy has to start moving a little different. For example, and you can have also a communication tower in each tree or every couple of trees. Not only that, you can charge all your equipment. If all the equipment for cultivation is electrical powered with batteries and so on, even the SUVs or whatever they all can be powered with electricity. They are being powered during the day from the sun, and then they can cultivate without any basically fuel.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so you basically create an ecology, community, and communication and shared economy all under the same roof. So just imagine, let's look at the scenario. If you look at on the globe, there is huge swaths of desert, let's say in Africa, just south, Morocco, Algeria, those areas. And you start putting trees just next to the ocean or next to the Mediterranean or whatever it is. And you erect some of those trees. Let's say you erect like a beachhead, what it's called, like a beachhead. You create a beachhead and you start pumping water from the sea, purify it, and start growing stuff right there. and then you slowly spread back into the you spread the forest into the desert. You basically start changing the climate too.
Everything.
Everything
Everything.
is changing. So
You are entering a virtuous circle.
yeah, you create basically a shared economy and a circle which propagate itself. Now, not all the agriculture has to happen under the trees. If you have enough trees, you can start pumping some of the water and create bigger area for growing stuff. So you basically change the earth in a way.
You describe the tree, we can see that we have three parts. I imagine that all of them require specific attention. How do you make it go from the idea to the business?
While I was in Israel, and I've been following Israel for many years, I'm quite amazed how many building blocks Israel has as far as the technology. Israel is really such a unique country that every building block in this concept, almost all of them, I would say 95%, are basically off-the-shelf concepts that are already either been worked on, they've been manufactured, or they've been already implemented. But nobody really puts it under one roof the way I described it to you. There is even technology in Israel right now for the flexible solar system that I'm talking about that would be part of the canopy. Now, you're familiar with biomimicry, and that's what basically we're doing. We biomimic nature, and nature is very smart, way smarter than we are. Now, how would I move from here? Right now, I'm really looking for people that would be what I would call co-conspirator in this from Israel. And then I would move after I assemble a team, move really into raising funds for it and putting a pilot project in Israel, starting in Israel, putting one. The trunk already located, and it's not in Israel. Already located trunk companies that would do that. It's engineered wood. It's basically made of wood. It's not even made of steel or anything. So it's wood. So you can do that, and then the rest of the stuff is basically off the shelf and putting it together. And I believe that this technology will move into many trillions of dollars in the next even 10 years. The minute you assemble it and you start setting it up, then you can start selling it and implementing it. And I'm sure many governments would be interested in investing in it.
I'm sure you're familiar with the One Health movement, which really goes in that direction. And the hybrid project is also really going in that direction, which is to start and thinking globally and not only focusing on separate areas like human health or animal health or ecology, but really trying to see the global picture. And the hybrid forest is really going in that direction, because we are here talking about improving agriculture, improving energy, improving the animal health, hence human health. What would you say, in your opinion, is they missing to push those kind of initiatives forward?
Well, it is the holistic way of looking at things. It's called the 30,000-foot view of things. And how would we move? How would we move from here? Well, first we have to drop the idea of borders. I know it's very hard. We live on this planet, and when pollution moves from one place to another, it knows no borders. So we have to start changing the mind frame, the way we looked at things. And we already started. Yes, we do have some aberration, like, with nationalistic ideas, but there's a lot of young people out there. And you've seen this young woman from Sweden and how many people followed up with her. Is because young people realize that, enough with the BS. We have to start moving, because this is is our survival and not only our survival. Listen, Earth is going to stay here. Earth is gonna get rid of us or whatever it is, or and turn around and do its own thing. But we have to start working in another way. And you can see the European Union made a commitment. Some countries make a commitment, and the commitment from the top is very important. Like
Yes.
China made a commitment. They look long term, and that's
They
very
look
important.
long term, and also they started earlier to put their cards on solar energy.
Correct. Let me give you a little bit background, because the US, I told you that 43 years ago, I started doing solar energy. Who invented the photovoltaic cell? It's the US. They invented it for the space program. Now, at that time when I did solar, Carter was a president, and then Reagan came. Reagan came and just killed the whole industry.
Because of the lobby?
Yeah, because of the lobby. Every time we powered one of those solar systems in Southern California, and I remember they used to have $8,000, or they used to have $10,000 gas bill. We dropped it by 80%. So suddenly they had a bill that they could charge the customer only $2,000 instead of $10,000. So they got really upset. And there were billion-dollar companies. So they went ahead and lobbied, and they say, hey, they're taking our bread from underneath us. So Reagan came around and he killed basically the industry. What had happened is companies from Japan and Germany bought most of those technologies for pennies on the dollar. And
all the patents.
All the patents, all the technology that was developed here, they turn around, and then later on, China got into the game, and they saw the light at the end of the tunnel, but they saw it from way far away.
That's so very true. I remain on that sentence that you just said about the fact that pollution has no borders. I think this is exactly completely right, and this is why we all need to start connecting the dots, working together worldwide from every different field to start bringing new solutions up to the air. Yes.
Thank you. The technology is out there. We just have to put it together.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything is out there. We just have to put it together. We have to move from ideas to doing.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's all.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much. Really, you are welcome back at any time to tell us more about how the hybrid forest is starting to grow, and we will be very much happy to hear about it.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And